1929, that was the year India banned child marriage. India outlawed marriages involving girls below the age of 14 or a boy who was under 18. In the year 1978, India amended this act. India increased the minimum age for marriage to 18 years for girls and 21 years for men. In 2006, India passed the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act. 18 was made the minimum age for marriage for women and men. Now, you may be wondering why I'm telling you all this. I will tell you why. Because it is 2024, and in America, child marriage is legal in all but 12 states. There are 50 states in total. In case you are wondering, 38 have no problem with child marriage. 38 of them. In which era do you think the US is living in? Earlier this month, Virginia raised the legal age for marriage to 18. The other 11 states have enacted their bans between 2017 and 2024. Basically, before 2017, child marriage had a free run there. Let me remind you that we are still talking about the United States of America, a country that loves to talk about progress, the pursuit of happiness, but actually does very little to ensure either. America is observing Sexual Assault Awareness Month in April. It should know that girls who marry before 18 are more likely to experience domestic violence. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that 297,033 children were married in the US between the year 2000 and 2018. Some children were as young as 10. 96% were aged 16 or 17. Even in colonial-era America, women would marry around the age of 20. This is well documented. Centuries and independence and a civil war, you have American children marrying at 10, at 16, 17. We were talking about the 297,000 plus figure. 78% of the girls who married at 16 or 17 had married an adult man. Over 17,000 of these marriages were in Nevada. You see, what happens in Vegas does not necessarily stay in Vegas. It impacts lives, it impacts families and generations. Marriages involving minors often become breeding grounds for sexual violence. Child marriage in itself is a form of human rights violation. Again, I'm not the one saying this. Officials of the USAID, or US Agency for International Development, are. The question is, what are they doing to stop this human rights violation? Around a decade ago, the US Council on Foreign Relations published a report summarizing the effects of child marriage. It highlighted maternal mortality and morbidity. It highlighted premature and low birth weight babies. The report spoke about poverty, STD, HIV, intimate partner violence. What has the US Council on Foreign Relations done to ensure that girls in the US are free of these problems? Nothing, it seems. What explains child marriage in America? Consent, some would say, that young children are willingly getting married. But ask a parent how much her 10-year-old or 14-year-old girl child actually understands about consent. Do you know something very disturbing is happening in the US? Studies have found that anything between 34,000 to 40,000 marriages since 2000 occurred, quote, at an age or with a spousal age difference that should have constituted a sex crime under the relevant state's law. I was reading from a study named Child Marriage or Statutory Rape. Researchers are pointing at two things. One, in 80% of the marriages, sex between the parties became legal only because there is a marriage license. And number two, in the remaining 20%, while the marriage between the parties was legal, sex between them remained illegal because a minor was involved. What is one to make of all of this? If not state-sanctioned rape? Once in a marriage, minor girls have little choice, you see. In many cases, their states have banned abortion. And how is it that despite all of this, the US talks about child abuse in other countries? With what face, I ask? These are systemic failures. In 2019, the US Senate came up with this report. It was basically an admission of, quote unquote, how the US immigration system encourages child marriages. The American law allows an American child to petition for a visa for a spouse living in another country. It also allows a US adult to petition for a visa for minor spouse. This report talks about how an American child was forced to marry her first cousin during a family vacation to Pakistan. Why? So that he could get a ticket to the US. This child told US authorities that her husband treated her like a quote-unquote little slave. Actually, let me read out what she said. Imagine someone is beating you and raping you every day of your life, even telling you, hey, put my socks on me. I know my potential child could have been so much more, she said, but they ruined my life. American law, the loophole in American law, and the failure of American law to safeguard its own ruined this child's life. Would you believe me if I said there is no comprehensive federal law, and I repeat, no comprehensive federal law setting the minimum age for marriage in the United States of America? It's like the gun laws in the US. Both risk the right to life. Both risk the pursuit of happiness. But the US does not want to talk about either. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.